Wow. Yeah. So it's been a while since I have put together a tutorial for all of you. Anyone that has been in contact with me for the past month on Discord or elsewhere can probably attest to the fact that I am staying incredibly busy these days and trying to find time to do anything outside of building apps is a challenge right now. But I've been meaning to sit down and put this together and get this done. And I finally caught a little bit of a break. So I figured I would go ahead and knock this out and try and get this done for all of you. I've heard from quite a few people who seem to kind of have this similar desire to really kind of dig into a TikTok type app. That seems to be the hot topic right now. And I think that it will kind of portray a well-rounded view of some various things that you can do inside of FlutterFlow, especially with all of the updates that FlutterFlow has come out with. So I guess what I'm looking at doing here is trying to condense some various things that'll be useful to you, some tips and tricks of how to do things that you could use in your other app projects that you could pull out of this particular app tutorial. Because I just simply I don't have the time really to sit down and make a bunch of different tutorials for different app types. I can't dedicate to that, and I don't want to make promises that I just can't keep. Sorry that I've done that in the past. So I don't want to do that again. And so what I'm gonna try and do here with this particular tutorial is knock out a bunch of different stuff that, like I said, you could take and use in other other app projects that you're doing. So again, this one is going to be a TikTok style app. If you've watched the other TikTok tutorials that I made, those are all fine and dandy, but they were lacking in a number of ways. And FlutterFlow has updated a lot of things since then, and so some of that stuff is outdated. Some of it's still relevant. But I've got a better layout for you, so I think you'll probably appreciate this one a little bit better. That being said, I was thinking about exactly how deep I wanted to go into this tutorial. I've actually got two ways of doing this. We've got the simple TikTok, and then we've got the highly complex TikTok. And for sake of my time, your time, and also just the fact that the more complex it is, the more explanation it's going to take, and likely the more I'm probably going to have to assist you along the way, which I don't mind doing, but if I don't have the time, then you're probably going to be left kind of in the dark as to what to do. So I don't want to overload you with stuff if I'm not able to readily answer questions for you, or at the very least, adequately explain it in the tutorial. So for this one, we're going to go simple TikTok. It'll still be a good tutorial, so give you some explanations on how to do some stuff. But what I'm planning to do is I'm actually going to do a full-length tutorial for the complicated TikTok, and I'm going to pre-record that entire tutorial. I'm not going to do it in segments. And then I'm probably going to sell access to that tutorial, just simply because it's going to take some time to sit down and compile it. So if you really want to dig into that one, then I'll let you know when that'll come along. But for this tutorial, we are going to use as many components inside of FlutterFlow that we can. We are going to be using a custom video player. Now, it's not the one that I posted a short video of the other day. That's actually a custom page view preloading widget, which that trends on the more complex side. So we're not going to use that. We're just going to use a video player, which you will be able to get access to the code for free. It'll be included as part of this tutorial. And let me go over here to my code real quick, see if I can pull it up. Let's see, where is that particular piece of code at? I've got tons and tons and tons of code here. Oh, let's see. Maybe it's this one. No, it's not that one. Goodness gracious. Maybe it's this one. Possibly. Let me go up here and see. It should be the text snap. I believe that was it. Let's see here. No, I don't think that's it either. No, that's not it. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to figure out what I did with that particular code. Shoot. Let's see. Give me just a second. Just see if I can find it real quick here. Let's go over here. Should be, there it is, Tech Play. That's the one I'm looking for. Sorry, can't even keep up with everything that I've named here. But let me do this and pull this over here like this. Okay. So this is the video widget that, again, you will have access to. I will include a link to it so that you can get it. It's fully functional and it's pretty straightforward. So again, this is just a video player essentially, but what it's doing is it's putting it into full screen, full width, full height, so that it gives you that TikTok feel, takes up the whole space on your screen there. And it has a single input parameter to make it easier for you, which takes in a URL. So your video URL, you can assign that with your collection, which I'll show you how to do that with your query. But yeah, it's super simple. And I believe this one does have, let's see here, I thought it did have it. Well, so yes it does. So this does have the gesture detector installed on it for the on tap. So you can tap anywhere on the video player and it'll play and pause it. Now, this particular widget does not have any. It doesn't have a seek bar, a progress bar, be at the bottom, and it does not have a play or pause button. You just tap in the middle to play or pause, but there's no play pause indicators. There's no muting, nothing like that. It's pretty simple code here, but it'll at least give you that full screen effect for your TikTok app. Okay, so you'll get access to that, and there's a couple other codes here. I'm not going to pull them up right now. We will, for this tutorial, we're going to cover setting up tab bar for our main screen here. A couple of tabs, probably have like a discover tab and a following tab, and then we'll use a page view for our up and down swiping, and we'll put our video widget in there. And we'll have a sidebar over here that'll have profile picture, comment button, like button, or I'm sorry, picture, like, comment, share. Those would be our 4 buttons. Probably not going to do a save button. You can do that if you want to, but I'm not going to use that. Then we'll have our nav bar down here at the bottom, our add video button, and then we will do like a user profile. On that user profile, we'll have it set up so that they can review their videos that they've created, and I'll show you how to pull down thumbnails of the videos. You can either do that using a custom code inside of FlutterFlow. You can actually run your video uploads through that, or you can grab the thumbnails off the CDN, which we will be going over a CDN, which is a content delivery network. That'll be a part of this tutorial, and I'm going to show you how to hook that up the simplest way. And it's a way that I actually prefer. Not all the time, depends on the CDN I'm using. Right now I am using this CDN for some different MVP projects. I think it's great for that. You probably need something more serious on the back end if you're going for full production to multiple millions of users, but for an MVP it's perfect. But we are going to still be using Firebase. It's a great idea actually to spread your data out across different databases. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use different services. It's really up to you, but it's not a bad idea to kind of put your data in different places and have some redundancy in place. Hot storage, cold storage, things like that. So we're actually going to be using Firebase for our Firestore data. That would be our text data, so our user information, our video information, our URLs, stuff like that. And then we're going to be using Firebase storage to cold store our videos archive, basically kind of a backup, if you will. And from Firebase storage, we will be passing video information from there to our CDN. Our CDN will actually pick up our videos from Firebase storage and propagate it over to the CDN and return the information back to the app that way. So that's the method we're going to be using. Now, to do that, there's a couple of custom codes that you have to use. One most important is that you actually have to use a URL parser to be able to pull out certain information from the video URL that is created when you upload to Firebase storage, so that you can pass that information to your CDN, and that way your CDN can deliver it back correctly, which I will show you all of that, so don't worry. If any of what I've just said is hyper confusing, hang tight, I'll explain it, don't worry, it'll be okay. So getting started here, obviously, if you're brand new to FlutterFlow, I highly suggest either watching some of my other videos or watching somebody else before getting to this point, because I have already set up the back end. I've already connected Firebase, I've already got all this stuff set up. I'm not going to go through that on here. I do need to, looks like I turned that off, so I need to have that turned on, but I can't do any of that yet. So anyway, I'm not gonna set up any of this in this tutorial. It's already set up. And then, of course, we will set up our collections here. Right now, I've only got the users collection because I wanted to kind of go over how I was going to set up the other collections. All right, and then over here on the entry page, our home page is our main screen, blank slate, just an empty page here, nothing in it. Delete everything. And turn safe area off, do not have that on, and you can leave keyboard tap on if you want to. I would disable Android back button as well. As a matter of fact, I would always disable this, and quite frankly, I wish that FlutterFlow would offer like a universal disable this button, because it's the Android back button can really muff stuff up if you forget to disable it. So I would highly suggest you don't forget that. All right. So first things first, we are not going to use light or dark mode. We're going to go strictly with dark mode. Let's see here. Not there. There. Oh, maybe not there either. Did they? Oh, wait. Here we go. There we go. So I'll turn that off. Now for our homepage background, I'm just going to go ahead and set it to black just in case there's any loading time, because I don't want that to be white or gray. I want it to be black. All right. I'm also going to go ahead and show my little device preview here so I can get an idea of how things are laid out. Words to the wise, if you're designing an app and you haven't thought about this yet, make sure that you check your design throughout all of these, or at least hit some of the primary ones. iPhone 13 sits kind of in the middle. It's a good midway size. iPhone SE is pretty small, so it's a good one to check as well. And then looking at like your notes and your Note 20 Ultra and these bigger phones, it's always a good idea to check those out. But just make sure that when you're designing your app, you do look at it across multiple devices, because I can assure you it's not universal. You will have stuff all over the place if you're not careful, especially when using a stack. All right. Now let's get rolling over here. Whoops. My code pulled up here. Okay. So again, we're going with the simple route here. So I'm gonna be using tab view, page scroller, things like that. Ideally, if you were doing a real TikTok app, you would, like I said, custom build all this stuff. So that way your video would actually go to the very top of your screen up here, just like it does in TikTok. But because we're not custom building for this, it's actually going to be squared off, and your tab buttons are not going to overlay your video like they do in TikTok. So that's kind of a downer, but that's just the way it is in this particular setup. If you want to learn how to do it the right way, that's what the more complex tutorial will cover. And at some point, probably not this first part, but in some point I will show you an example of what the right way looks like. All right, so let's go ahead here. I think the very first thing that we need to do is to go ahead and drop our stack in here. So let's grab our stack widget and drop it in there like that. And that'll be our first step. The reason we're doing that is because we actually want to separate our tab view from our nav bar, because we don't want our nav bar to be stuck in there with our tab view. All right, so we can go ahead and we could actually just drop our tab bar in there now and get that taken care of. And you can see that it's stuck up here at the top. That's because we have safe area turned off. We don't want that on. Leave it off. So let's grab our whole tab bar here. I find a padding of 42 is pretty good. Kind of keeps you in the safe zone there. You could probably ease it up some if you really wanted to and go to like 36. But again, you just want to make sure you check all of these and make sure it looks right. SE is the only one where it's like drags way down, which is really annoying. Which, you know, I'm hopeful that most users don't have an SE, so maybe you get lucky on that. But it generally looks good for everything else. All right, so we're just gonna be using two tabs here. So let me go up here. And I'm going to get rid of this guy. All right, now I obviously need to change some stuff in here so we can actually see what we're working with. So selected colors, just go for white. Non-selected color, we'll just kind of do an off-white, grayish color. And then our indicator is going to be white as well. All right, we are going to leave it at the top. Don't worry about that right now. We will allow swiping. We're not going to keep the state alive. Definitely, word of the wise, don't keep the state alive. Not for this particular thing. Reason being is that keeping state alive essentially caches whatever has already been queried to the user's device, and if the user has scrolled through a ton of videos, you keep the state alive. That could cause memory overload and slow their phone down and potentially crash their phone, which is a bad user experience. But my main reason for not keeping the state alive is that if you have a video playing in, let's say, example 1 tab, and you swipe over to example 2, that video is going to continue to play over into example 2 because its state is still alive. It did not pause. Aside from building this out as fully custom code and telling it to pause when you swipe over, there's no way to do that directly inside of FlutterFlow. So do not keep state alive. Bad idea. I am going to make the tab bar scrollable, even though it's not going to be scrollable. But reason we're going to do that is because it's going to scoot these into each other instead of having them spaced way out here. We want them closer together. Alright, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and set this real quick. Let's just take care of this. Quick like here. Alright, and let's edit this. Tone that down. Let's go down to 14. And let's see here. Okay. All right. Oops. That's not where we want that. That's what we want. Okay. All right. So that'll work. So obviously, see that Discover is over here on the right. Again, if you're new to all of this, you don't know, tabs, page views, things like that are indexed. Index always starts at 0, doesn't start at 1, and this would actually be tab number index 0, and this would be index 1. When the page loads up, it's going to default to index 0, so your following is actually going to show up first, but we actually want Discover to show up first. And last I had checked, if I tried to type this in manually, it wouldn't hold, but let's see if that has been fixed. No, it's still not keeping it in there, so let's see. No matter how many times I type it in there, it's always going to revert back to 0. So, I mean, in theory, you could put Discover over here, and then it would automatically default to Discover. But if we're trying to make it look like TikTok, the main feed tab is actually over here on the right, and everything else is to the left of it. And so the best way to do that is actually just to do a page state. And you can do just do a tab. And this can actually come in handy later on if you want to use it for other things. And we'll do it as an integer and turn that off because we do want this to be required. We want the initial field, and we're going to set it as 1. So our state field, our local page state in a tab will be set to number 1, and then we can go to our tab view here and we'll come down here and tap on the variable and go to page state in a tab. So now it will default. That should have stayed there. Okay, there we go. So now that'll bring you into number 1. And again, there are various reasons why you could actually use that page state beyond just declaring what you want your initial tab to be. So it's a useful thing to know how to do. All right, now we need to, let's go ahead and go back over here to our widget tree, go to our stack, and let's go ahead and drop our nav bar in here at the bottom. So go to your stack, add, and just add a container. Make sure you got your container highlighted. You can drag it around if you want to, but the easiest thing to do is go over here to alignment and set it to center bottom. It's down here at the bottom now. Set your width to infinite, and then you can set your height to whatever you want it to be. This kind of a preference thing, and you just want to adjust it to see what looks best with everything that you're working with. 95 seems like a good spot to have landed on, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to set its background to black as well. Alright, And then have that container highlighted. I'm going to go down here in my child alignment. I'm going to set it to top center. And then I'm going to put a row in there. So now the row is sitting at the top. Let me change the color here so we can see it a little better until I'm done with it. So my row is sitting at the top of my container. And I want my main axis alignment for my row to be center. And I'm going to pad it and bring it down by like 12. Maybe more than that. But then again, my nav bar is a little high, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is for now. And I'm going to set my ends at 12. Padding left and right 12. And then I'm going to go down here to my spacing. This is something fairly new that FlutterFlow has introduced. I dig it. I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to do my start spacing at 8, my end spacing at 8, and my item spacing at 12. And then I'm going to do, icon buttons, or I could do icon, let's do buttons. I'm going to put a button in here, and I'm going to get rid of all this filler crap. I don't want any of that. And let's go ahead and change our container back to black. And let's change this to white. Button size, we're going to do 50. And our icon size, probably do 28. Okay, that'll work. And then let's go ahead and just duplicate those out. I'm going to go ahead and set up all 4 that I want to have down here, but we may or may not touch on all of them, setting them all up. Do a third one. If you want this to look exactly like TikTok, then we need to do something a little different here. So let's actually get rid of that. I'll just go ahead and show you this. So go ahead and put a container in there. You can see that it's massive. It's way too big. So you want to adjust your width. Let's go to 50 and 40. Make it a little bit wider. And height needs to go down. Might be a little much. Go to 35 for now. And then let's round our edges some. So let's do like 18. That's too much. Do 12. Alright, that'll work. And then do gradient on that. And 125. Do 125. And then you can just set your gradients to whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Do like orange and different orange. And then go down there and set the child to center. And go ahead and grab another container and drop it in there. So this middle container, or this container you just dropped in here, is its size is going to be contingent on the container that is containing it. So that container that we just set up is dictating the size of this container. So you can try adjusting it here if you want to, which looks like our width. That's right. They fixed this. I forgot about that. They did fix that. So, but I'm actually just going to leave it at 100. So used to you couldn't adjust it because it was dictated by the container that was containing it. But now you can't adjust it. So. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and set their border radius to 12. And I'm actually going to use padding to dictate what I want to do here. So let's do 8 and 8. Too much. Way too much. Okay. Whoops. Do 4. 4. There we go. All right. And then this one, child, be your center there as well. And then you can grab yourself an icon and drop it into that container and change it to an add button or an add icon. And now you have your little kind of TikTok style button there. All right. Okay, so that takes care of that. So this one over here, that's just going to be a home icon. Probably going to do outlines. This one I think is maybe friends or something like that. Can't remember exactly. I think this one's messages. And this one might be profile, I believe. Okay. And then let's do one more thing here. Let's grab our outer container. Make sure you grab the one that is set with your gradient and set a padding because we kind of want this spaced out from the others. Give it a little bit more depth there. All right, so now we've got those things set up. Yeah, I think that'll work fine there. Okay, that's taken care of, so let's go ahead and start working inside of here in our first tab. As you can see, whenever you drop your tab field in here, it automatically puts this text box inside of here, so just go ahead and delete that and do it on the following as well so that it doesn't get you all messed up. And then let's grab, let's see here, I want page view. Okay. So first things first, get rid of our pictures. Let's go over here, our widget tree, and we can actually get rid of these other tabs. We only need one. So go ahead and delete that one and delete this one, because we're actually going to generate our children from a backend query, so we only need one of those. And I do want to bring this up, so let's see here. Go to your page view here and do the bottom padding. Let's just start at 45. That's not nearly enough. There's my container, so let's go for 90. Let's leave that just like that for a second. Get rid of the indicator. You don't want to show that. You do want to allow swipe scrolling, but you want to set it to vertical. And we want to bring that back down. Set my height to infinite, by the way. I'm not going to set it at 500. Trying to get this kind of lined up here. There we go, now I can see it better. So you want your page view to be pretty much even with the top of your container here. So let's just drop our container down some. Close We'll just go to 90. That should be right. Okay, there we go. So now they're pretty much even. That way your video will take up the full space, and then your container will sit there right at the bottom of it. Okay. Alright, so now we got that in there. So the next thing that we want to do then is add into our page view, and we want to add a stack, because we're going to stack our widgets in here. So we've got our stack in here. We do need to add our video widget next, which is our custom video widget. So let's go over here to our custom code. Let's go ahead and add a widget. And let me grab that widget code real quick here. All right, let's see here. Alright, so we need to add a couple of dependencies. FlutterFlow has started doing something here recently, and I'll show you here real quick. Let me grab my dependencies for these. Alright, so the first one's going to be the video player dependency, which is video player 2.6.1. And then we need to grab the visibility detector. Okay, so you can see that all that red that was on there went away. That's because we just put our dependencies in here and declared our imports, which would be the video player import and the visibility detector. It's interesting, FlutterFlow is not throwing an error. They were earlier, unless they updated their video player, but supposedly FlutterFlow's video player is not this version. It's an older version. It was warning me that this version could cause problems if you use it, because it's a newer version, but you'll want to use 2.6.1 and regardless of what FlutterFlow tells you, because that's what's compatible with this code at the moment. And then this is good to go. So if you tap this button to import and your red won't go away, just keep tapping it over and over and for a little while. It might take it, it might not. Click save, go to a different section of the app, come back to it. That might fix it. If you're still getting red after you do all of that, if you do a refresh up here and you close your app down altogether, whatever, come back to it, you're still getting red, which you won't for this code, but just an FYI for any code you may use in the future. That typically means that you are missing dependencies that you need, or you've got dependencies in here that you don't need. So it's important to kind of look through that and understand what you're doing. But for this particular code, this is all you're going to need. It's going to work fine. Once you click save, it's going to automatically put your parameter in here for the video URL. So just leave that the way it is. This is not nullable. You cannot, this can't be empty, in other words. So you will throw an error and you'll have a bad feed if you somehow end up with an empty URL. Definitely make sure it's always filled with something. This right here, if you're digging into this code at all, it says that it's deprecated, that it is an older version of this and it's looking for, I believe it's network URL. Yeah, it's saying that you should use video player controller network URL instead of just video player controller network, which is the one we're using. Ignore that, don't change anything, leave it alone. It might tell you, quick fix may say ignore, don't do any of that, just leave it the way it is, it's good to go. If you mess with it, it's gonna mess up your code. All of this is obviously imported by FlutterFlow, so just leave that alone. Of course, make sure that you set the widget name to your class name here, which is TechPlay. Just copy and paste it up here. If you want to change the name, you can. by all means, just make sure that if you change it up here, you change anywhere where it says tech play. So you change it there, you change it there, 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 and there. So change it in all those points. Do make sure that you have your width and height that is required by FlutterFlow. And that's pretty much it that you need to know, I think. Yeah, that's all. So let's go ahead and run the compiler real quick and compile that code and get that taken care of, so that we can drop it over there into our app. Yeah, forgot that this was in here. So this code does have the play arrow, but it is not actually working correctly, and I may just actually remove it from this code before passing it on, because there's actually something totally different that you have to do to make this work. It won't just work out of the box by sticking it in here. So that was an old attempt. This is actually an old code compared to what I'm using now, but it'll work for what you're wanting. All right, so that's taken care of. Let's go back over here to our stack and add that in there. So go over here to our widgets and tap on tech play, and then go ahead and set width infinite, height infinite, so it takes up the entire space here. Okay, you won't be able to see anything, obviously. It's pretty much invisible. All right, we'll come back to setting the video URL here in a little bit. All right, so now that's taken care of, so let's go ahead and add to our stack. We're going to do our bar over here, our menu bar. So for that, let's do a column and set the alignment to the right center. And then I'm actually going to make my main axis alignment. I could do center. I don't want to do center. Let's do bottom. All the way to the bottom there. And then let's like pad it by like 8 on the bottom. Just kind of get it up off the bar just a little bit. And then let's see here. Let's do, if you want to have the little music thing that shows up there, you can do that if you want to. We're not going to be tying music in, but we can at least make it look like that. So you can drop a container in there and make it a circle, and then let's set that at like 45 maybe. Do 40. A little small. Do 45. And let's also, while I'm thinking about it, grab your column here. Let's move it over slightly. So let's get it off the edge there. Alright, and then let's set our child center, and we're going to let's just do a circle image. Okay, and do the padding 10 on all corners, make that smaller. And no, make that smaller now. Let's do 11. Okay. And I'm going to actually upload an image here shortly for that, so but we'll just leave that alone for now. Okay. Item spacing. Let's actually put another column in here. And then on our main column, let's go ahead and do our item spacing real quick here. And set that to 24 and get that up a little ways off of this down here. Okay. And now, let's see, I think it's do icon buttons. Oh, oops, that's not what I wanted. Just do that. And I actually want my spacing to be more. Let's do 32. Okay. And let's go ahead and duplicate. Yeah, just one. Just duplicate it once. Now let's grab our interior column here that's containing those two icon buttons. Let's do our item spacing for those. And I'm going to do 18, I think will be fine. Let's change this one to a comment. I kind of wanted it filled. Oh, there it is. All right, let's grab our columns, go to our widget tree so we can do this correctly here. Go over to our column, and let's add a toggle icon. Put it down there at the bottom, that's not where I want that. Let's see here. Let's slam it out some, isn't it? That is. It should be alright. A little smaller. Drops that down some. Oops. Alright. I still want to make this further up to that. Okay, that should work. All right, so that takes care of that. Let's go ahead and grab our column again and drop another container in here. And we do want it to be up here at the top. And we're going to make that circle. Go to 45. 45 should work. Set our child to center. And then go over here and grab a circle image. And do our padding at, let's do 2. Alright. Still not content with that being there, it's just not high enough. That should work. And this does need to be smaller now that we've got some other stuff in here. Okay. All right, that's good. Good to go there. So we've got our sidebar over here. Okay, so we got all this stuff set up. That's exactly where we need to be on this. And obviously, if we want to, we can just duplicate and go over there with it instead of rebuilding all of this out. So best way to do that is just come over here and grab your page view right here and copy that and put it over here. Now, something I highly recommend that you get in the habit of doing is labeling your widgets. If you don't do that, I would suggest it. It makes it a lot easier to troubleshoot when you run into issues. So I would do like whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter to me. And I would suggest, I would suggest doing that for everything. Yeah, everything. Labeling all of your stuff, so it's all unique. Makes it a lot easier to troubleshoot, and actually having duplicate names on widgets and components like that in FlutterFlow can actually throw their own errors for really stupid reasons. So just little tip there. Get in the habit of labeling all of your stuff. All right, so that takes care of that. Let's go over here to our collections real quick and go ahead and set up a videos collection. Let's call it video feed. A bit easier to identify. We'll do a date uploaded field. Uploaded by reference to a user. Do the video URL, which is going to be a string. We're not going to do a video path. Don't do that. Do video, do a string, because we're actually going to be getting our URL from our CDN rather than from Firebase. Going to do video ID. That's also going to come from our CDN. I'll explain that later. Yeah, and then there'll probably be a few other things we need to do in here. Do likes. And we'll set that as document reference to users. Set it as a list. And I think that's good for now. Just leave that like that for now. All right, so we can come back over here. And let's go ahead and make sure, let's go to the Discover tab and grab our page view here. It's actually this one right here. So grab our Discover view, our page view, and let's generate our children. So do a backend query, be our query, and we're going to query video feed, and do list of documents. I don't think we really need to set any filters up right now. We'll come back to that. I am going to order by date uploaded is decreasing. Yeah. Alright, so now you can see that it's trying to scroll through that. Alright, so that takes care of that. So let's go ahead for the remainder of this tutorial. Let's go back to our stack down here, and let's add another container. And I'm just going to drag it down here, pretty close down here to the bottom, and bring it out. Be pretty good there. leave it white so we can see it for a moment. And in that container, I'm going to add a column. I'm going to do padding at 4 on all the corners. And then I'm going to, very first thing I'm going to put in there is a row. Bring that in by 2 and 2. And then I'm going to do text. Set that to semi-bold. And it's going to need to be white, so we can go ahead and make our container here transparent. Okay. And then let's do a little bit like that. And let's do a little icon here. And let's scoot that way. 3 will be good. Let's do a check. Okay, that'd be like a little verification badge, verified account sort of thing. All right, and then I'm just going to copy this or duplicate this row instead of recreating it all together. Bring that down by about 6, but I am going to get rid of this icon. We don't need that anymore. And we're going to highlight our text field here and expand it all the way out so that it'll take up the entire row. That way it'll go down. Unlike TikTok, I'm not going to do an expandable here, so what I'm actually going to do is set this column to scrollable, and that way if the text goes down far enough, it'll scroll. You'll be able to scroll inside of that box, and that's also why we put that container around that column, so that it contains the column. That way the column is scrollable. All right, so we do want to go back over here to our video feed, and let's call it content, I guess. That'll be fine. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go here to my stack. I obviously need to grab a reference to the user that created this, and I could drop that reference in over here in this column. I could do it right here in this container that's containing the circle image. I also need it down here because that's going to be another photo of the user if they haven't plugged music in here. So I could do it there, do it here, make the reference point here, but I also need the reference point here as well for their username, so I could do it here, and I could do it over here. But the less times that you have to make a reference to the same thing to the same document within the same query, the better. So best thing you can do is just go to your stack, because that's containing all of this, and your stack is a part of each query document, and go ahead and add your backend query reference, document from reference, which would be a user, and then you go into your video feeds document, uploaded by reference, confirm and confirm. And so now you've got the data that you need for that user that uploaded this document. So now you can set their circle image to the path variable, and that would be the user's document photo URL, and make sure that you do set a default just in case, otherwise you'll throw some errors. So now you're getting that creator's photo. And then kind of similar thing down here with the name. Do your text field, user's document, display name. And then of course here as well. Okay, so that took care of all of it in one go. Instead of referencing that person multiple different places, you've got it all in one thing here. All right, so now let's set that text field there to our video feed content. It's going to be this. And I realized we forgot to do something here. or I forgot to do something, and that is that, yeah, I knew that seemed bigger. Of course it's bigger. One bad thing about a toggle icon. It's okay though, I'll have to do. Is that I forgot to put these icons into columns so that we can register how many likes there are, how many comments there are, and of course how many shares there are as well. But we'll do that in the next tutorial. So before we break away here, let me grab, let's see here. Let's grab this container for our little disk down here and set our background image to an asset. And we're going to use this little disk asset looking thing here. You can see that the disk does not fill the entire container. So it's not going to fill it up, I don't think. So what we want to do is actually set the background for the container to transparent. That way it just shows the disk. Alright, so now you've got your disk here. And what we can do is on page load, we can rotate this thing, just like it does in TikTok. You can see it spinning super fast. Don't want that. Set that to linear. Duration, let's do like 5,000, so it'll be 5 seconds. So it's a bit slower, so that's better. And let's see, we'll loop the animation so it keeps going. And we're going to set a delay on it so it doesn't start immediately. And we'll just set that to 5,000 as well. So that way it starts up and then after 5 seconds it'll start spinning. Okay. So that's how we do that. And of course we could have, I think there's like a thing that comes out here and says who the music is by. We're not going to be plugging music in because to merge music with videos like TikTok does requires FFmpeg, which used to be available for Flutter, but it's not anymore apparently. The pub package has been removed, which I would imagine running that particular service app side would be very, very intensive on resources. I can't imagine that it would make the app run very well. But if you decide to purchase the more complex tutorial for this particular topic in TikTok, I may actually go over setting up an FFmpeg server, and that is actually where you would send a video file, an audio file, and decode the files and then re-encode them as one file, so you can actually add music to a video, which is pretty cool. But it's definitely something you want to do on a server rather than inside the app, because it's going to be way too heavy for the app. Alright, so that's it for this one. For this particular tutorial, I do want to change the color on this real quick, the icon color. Yeah, we'll do yellow. Okay, it just kind of indicates that that's where we're at. All right, so okay, that's it for this one. I'll have another one coming for you very soon. We're going to set up comments. I am going to show you how to do the bottom sheet and to prevent the bottom sheet from shooting all the way to the top. In TikTok, the bottom sheet for the comments does not extend all the way to the top whenever you're typing in a message. In FlutterFlow, it does cover all the way to the top. You don't want that. So I'll show you how to keep it from doing that. I'm also going to show you how to do reply messages inside of your comments, how to do sub-levels of comments. So you have like your primary comment, then a reply to comment. I'm going to go over how to nest comments within comments and to do collapsibles with those. It's really handy to have. It's definitely something you need for this particular type of app for it to look right. We will set up our accounts for these. We're not going to do a follow button here, simply because it gets really finicky with FlutterFlow as far as using their stuff in here. It doesn't want to behave correctly. You've been using a stack, but you have to use stack and conditional visibility. But doing so directly inside of FlutterFlow without custom code, it just doesn't work well. So we're not going to do it that way. We'll use a different method for that. And so yeah, so we'll go over all that stuff, of course, adding likes and everything like that. We'll cover adding a video, which we're just going to use the inline stuff that FlutterFlow offers for recording a video or uploading a video from the gallery. The more complex tutorial, I do have custom built camera and gallery access, so it's a whole different ball game on that side as far as what you can do with the camera. Overlays and things like that's pretty cool. Also limiting time for recordings, pretty imperative to be able to do that. Compressing your videos before upload, very handy to do. Is pulling your thumbnails from your video files, it's also extremely handy. But those are all things that'll be done in more complex tutorials. These simpler tutorials will be using what FlutterFlow has to offer for that. However, I will give you a code, a custom function that when you upload a video to Firebase, it'll run it through that custom function to check its duration and make sure that it falls within the specified duration that you have set. You can do that at any amount of seconds that you want. The only problem with that is it does have to upload to Firebase and then run it through that code. So it kind of nicks against your read writes, your storage, things like that. Of course, you can revert and delete the item, but still it requires more time than is necessary, I think. But in any case, if you really want to limit the duration of a video being uploaded and you want to do it app side with a really simple function, I'll show you how to do that. But there's definitely better ways to do that, and really the most ideal way is using totally custom code for your cameras and your galleries. That way you actually fine-tune your control over over the length of the videos that they're uploading before it ever gets to the point of being uploaded. So, but in any case, we'll just do it through FlutterFlow for the time being. And also, of course, we will cover the CDN. I know that's something a lot of people have been wondering about, and that does involve some custom code, nothing too complex. And I will go over setting up the CDN as well on the CDN side, the one that I'm using, and how it works, how you send the information, the API that you use, how you get the information back, and all that good stuff. So, all right, so that's it for this tutorial. Again, if you've already kind of seen this, then this probably wasn't anything new for you. If you haven't seen this yet, then hopefully this is helpful to you. The only reason I'm cutting this tutorial off at this point is because it's just getting long, but I'm planning on just recording all of this straight through. So I'm going to be spitting out the tutorials for this particular app pretty rapid fire over the next couple of days. All right, that's it. See you on the next one.